Hey everyone, what's going on? Jeff here from Films at Home. Thanks for coming back to the channel today for this episode of Home Video History. Today we are going to be diving into the world of Michael Myers in Haddonfield, Illinois with a home video history on Halloween from 1978. Now, Halloween is one of my favorite movies, and I do have a ton of these releases, but we're going to cover everything from theatrical release all the way through VHS, Laserdisc, UMD format, Blu-ray, 4K, all the different versions in between, and talk about what were some of the biggest releases, when there were restorations done, and just give you some behind the scenes on the home video history of this classic horror movie. So sit back, relax, and let's dive right into the world of Haddonfield in 1978. So the story of Halloween really begins in October of 1978 when it was first released theatrically in downtown Kansas City, Missouri. So how about that for a worldwide opening in Kansas City? Nothing against Kansas City, but I think they would have liked to see the movie open in somewhere like LA or New York. Now, with a $300,000 budget, this was a fairly low budget horror movie for the time period, but immediately after its first couple of weeks, you could see that this was going to be a success, and it started to expand regional distribution out to Philadelphia, out to New York City, and then into Southern California. So at the end of its first theatrical run, it had grossed $47 million in the US, $23 million internationally for $70 million total on a $300,000 budget. That is one hell of a return. So following the huge theatrical success of Halloween, there was obviously a big push to get Halloween out on home video. The first distributor for home video releases of Halloween was Media Home Entertainment, and their first release came in 1979, just 1 year after the movie was released theatrically. In 1979, that saw both a Betamax release and a VHS release because we were very much still in the middle of a format war between those two tapes. Both of these releases were pan and scan, otherwise known as full screen. So picture a square TV. It would fill your square TV screen, but it was not in widescreen format, which was the original way that the movie was shot. Now in 1980, this was the first time that people had the chance to watch Halloween on TV when NBC bought the rights for $3 million. Now, there was a big discussion between John Carpenter, Deborah Hill, and the NBC kind of censorship board to make sure that this was going to be okay to play on TV. So some of the movie got censored, and John Carpenter actually shot 12 minutes of additional footage while he was working on Halloween 2, and that became what is known as the television version of Halloween. Now that's important because we will see that pop up in a few different home video versions. There are some extra scenes with Michael Myers and Dr. Loomis when he's much younger. There's a couple extra scenes with Laurie Strode, and it adds just a little bit of footage to fill the 2-hour time slot that NBC needed. That premiered for the first time in October of 1981, and also in 1981 we got a second VHS release to coincide with the release of Halloween 2 in theaters. There was an additional VHS release in 1984, but it had pretty much the same artwork as the 1981 release. And then in 1985, there was a Betamax release for the second time. That was the last Betamax release, and I'm kind of surprised they did it because at that point, Betamax was sort of a failing format. Now in the mid-80s, as Laserdisc started to take hold in the market, we saw the first Laserdisc release of Halloween in 1985 from Image Entertainment. This was again pan and scan full screen format, so we don't have any widescreen yet, but that release sold for $40 retail at release date, which is the equivalent of over $100 in 2022. So next time you think about complaining for spending $20 on a Blu-ray, just remember in the 80s, people were spending the equivalent of $100. So we have it much better than they had it back then. Now after 1985, things were a little slow with Halloween. There was another VHS from Media Home Entertainment in 1987, but again, pretty much the same release, same artwork, black box art with the poster and the Media Home Entertainment logo. And then in 1989, Media Home Entertainment went out of business, and to try to make a few bucks before they closed shop, they did one final pressing of Halloween on VHS. Now, the interesting thing about this pressing was that it was accidentally pressed with the television version before it was eventually corrected with the theatrical version. So the television version VHS from 1989 has become quite a collector's item for VHS collectors because it's kind of rare. It was pulled out of circulation very quickly when they corrected it. So there's a lot of listings you'll see on eBay where the television version may be referenced, and that's because in 1989 they made a mistake. Now, the weird thing with all of these releases on VHS and Betamax from Media Home Entertainment is that they spell Myers wrong on all of them. They spell it M-E-Y-E-R-S instead of M-Y-E-R-S. Don't know why they never fixed it, but on every single release, they screwed that up. Now, from 1989 until 1994, there was no action for Halloween on home video. It went a solid 5 years without a release. However, in 1994, we got a second Laserdisc release from the wonderful people at the Criterion Collection. Yeah, they've been around that long. They released Halloween as their 247th title. It had the film's soundtrack in both digital and analog formats, but most notably, this was the first time the movie was released in widescreen format, which is really important. Now, after that Laserdisc release in 1994, in 1995, Blockbuster Home Video actually purchased the distribution rights to Halloween and put it out as part of their Blockbuster Presents VHS line, which was massively successful, and it's probably the reason why that's the most popular VHS release you'll typically see pop up in thrift stores or on eBay for Halloween. They printed a ton of these, they sold a ton of these, and it was the first VHS release in 6 years, so it was a very, very successful movie for them. However, even though the widescreen version had come out on Laserdisc in 1994, this 1995 Blockbuster Home Video release was only full screen format. Now, 1996 marks a pretty big milestone for Halloween because 1996 had updated releases that were sourced from a new 35mm scan that was transferred from the original negative. So in 1996, Criterion actually released a special edition of Halloween in September, and that release actually added some special features as well. There was an illustrated behind the scenes called The Night He Came Home. It had reviews by Ebert and Siskel. It had illustrated filmographies, additional scenes from the TV version, and a commentary track with John Carpenter, Deborah Hill, and Jamie Lee Curtis. So that was a pretty nice release, and still those two Laserdisc releases from Criterion remain some of the most popular ones out there for collectors. Now, while 1996 was a big year for the transfer of the movie, 1997 was a big year because the movie once again changed hands, and now we're changing hands for the last time because Anchor Bay acquired the distribution rights for Halloween, and those rights have remained with them ever since. So you'll never see another Laserdisc release from Halloween after 1996, and there was no Criterion DVD or Blu-ray because Anchor Bay bought those rights up and they've owned them and held on to them very smartly, I think. But that's where the end of Laserdisc comes in and where we get back to some more VHS titles and, for the first time, DVD. So in 1997, after Anchor Bay acquired those rights, they put a release out in December with both a full screen and widescreen presentation of the film, which was the first time Halloween was seen in widescreen on VHS. Also in 97, Anchor Bay released the first DVD release of Halloween, which was a big deal because the DVD format was fairly new. This was a double-sided disc that had widescreen on one side, full frame on the other side, and had a theatrical trailer, although there were no other special features. And for some reason, as we mentioned before with Media Home Entertainment, they spelled Myers wrong again on all of these releases. I don't know why nobody could figure out how to spell Michael Myers correctly. So in 1998, there was a big VHS release, which still remains pretty popular, the tie-in with the film's 20th anniversary, as well as the theatrical release of Halloween H20. This was a 2 VHS tape set. The VHS tapes were orange, they were in a nice clamshell case, and it was limited to only 40,000 copies. The first tape had the widescreen version of the movie, and the second tape was entirely special features. That special features tape had the television scenes, which is cool. It had Halloween Unmasked 1998, the theatrical trailer, and some TV spots and radio spots with a still gallery. This is a really nice release. It also had some postcards of production stills. It came with a keychain. It was a really, really cool collector's edition, one of the best that had been put out at the time. So in 1999, Anchor Bay went back to DVD with a collector's edition of Halloween on a 2-disc set inside a lenticular cover. The first disc had the movie in widescreen in full frame and the special features from previous releases, but it didn't have the TV footage because the second disc in that set was what they're calling the extended edition of Halloween, where the film's theatrical cut had the television scenes spliced in, and that quickly became a lot of fans' favorite way to watch the movie. So after 1999, the next release came in 2001, where Anchor Bay released the extended edition of Halloween on VHS, and that ultimately was the last VHS release of Halloween because DVD had pretty much taken over here. Alongside that last VHS release, that was the extended edition. They also released the extended edition on its own as a single standalone outside of that 2-disc set from 1999. So for the 25th anniversary of Halloween in 2003, we saw a 25th anniversary release with all new special features and a nice little booklet on DVD. The first disc had a new transfer of the film, had the Criterion Collection commentary track that they brought back, and then the second disc had an all-new 87-minute documentary called Halloween, A Cut Above the Rest. It also had additional features like an on-location featurette with PJ Soles and Deborah Hill going to different filming locations. It had the trailer, TV spots, radio spots, and the poster and stills gallery. Now from 2003 to 2007, we don't have anything happening with Halloween, but in 2007, we get the first Blu-ray release as well as the last DVD release. So the first Halloween Blu-ray release in 2007 was admittedly a bit rough. I remember having it and the transfer is not great. So while it was okay to see that in HD, it didn't really look great. And in between 2007 and 2013, when the new transfer happened on Blu-ray, there were actually a couple of different companies that did their own transfers. Germany in 2010 with Concord Entertainment released a different transfer. Then in 2011, Halloween got a Blu-ray release in Australia from Umbrella Entertainment, who's still around today doing great work. And that had a different transfer from the American and German releases. So in these early days of Blu-ray, there was sort of like a lot of transfers that were bouncing back and forth, and we didn't really have a definitive version of the movie in HD. That is until 2013. With the film's 35th anniversary in 2013, Anchor Bay, which is now owned by Starz at this point, put out a really cool 35th anniversary Blu-ray release. The movie got a new 4K scan that was supervised by Dean Cundy, which is good. He was the director of photography. It had all those other special features, and it had a new commentary track with John Carpenter and Jamie Lee Curtis. So it packed in some extra special features, and it had a really cool packaging as well. However, the one big controversy here was that the 35th anniversary Blu-ray did not have the original mono track, which a lot of people still swear by and think is the best version of the audio. So it had new, HD audio tracks, 5-channel tracks, but it didn't have the 1-channel original theatrical track. So in 2014, Scream Factory and Anchor Bay teamed up and they put out their big Halloween complete collection Blu-ray set. When Scream Factory put out that box set in 2014, they fixed that issue. They added a new commentary track, but they also added the film's correct mono track. So that was a big mistake on the 2013 release that Scream Factory thankfully fixed in 2014, but you had to buy the complete collection Blu-ray set. So you didn't have a mono audio release on your standard Blu-ray releases. Now, after that 2014 Scream Factory release, there were no more releases of Halloween until 2018 for the 40th anniversary, and this is the first time we got 4K. So this was the first time we got that 4K transfer on an actual 4K disc, and it tied in with the 2018 release of the new Halloween movie starring Jamie Lee Curtis in the new reboot of the trilogy. So they tied it all in with that for the 40th anniversary, and we got a 4K disc, but it had all the same special features as the 2013 Blu-ray, and it honestly wasn't a super impressive 4K release. Now, luckily in 2021, Scream Factory came through again to save the day for the Halloween franchise when they released Halloween as well as Halloween 2, 3, 4, and 5 on their own special edition 4Ks. Those had new transfers with Dolby Vision HDR, and I think they were an extreme improvement over what was at that point almost a 10-year-old transfer. I did a review on these. You can check out my YouTube review comparing the two 4K releases, but what Scream Factory did there was very impressive, and that now is the definitive version of 4K. And again, a lot like other movies and things from this era, I'm not sure that it could get any better. This is probably the peak for Halloween on home video is 4K, Dolby Vision. That's about as good as it gets. So that is your home video history of Halloween from 1979 on VHS all the way through new 4K discs in 2021, and boy, how far have we come. The quality on this movie has increased incredibly over the years, especially in the last decade, and I know there's still nostalgia out there for like a dirtier version, and I certainly feel that. Like, the 4K release, the one thing that I thought was it looks incredible, but you also lose a little bit of the shadowy creature that is Michael Myers, because you can clearly see him now in shadows. There is something to be said about watching a movie like Halloween on a bit of a grittier format like VHS or DVD, and I totally get why people do that. I can see both ways. I love my 4K disc and I think it looks incredible, but I do also own a VHS copy as well as the DVD and the old Blu-ray, because sometimes I want to have that kind of old school approach to a movie like this. So that's it. That's your full history. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Definitely let me know if you want to see more of these. I know you liked the Jaws video, so I figured, hey, Halloween's my second favorite movie. I'll do that next. If you want to see more, let me know in the comments what you'd like to see. And if I missed anything, please let me know in the comments, because these take a while to research. I have to say, this wouldn't have been possible without a few articles that were written online. I looked at Laserdisc databases. There were some great articles written by the AV Club. There was also some great articles written by the horrorsofhalloween.com, who had a ton of great artwork, and 45lampkinlane.com, which is a Halloween fan site, has a ton of great information. So I wouldn't have been able to bring this to you without all of their research and diving into some of what they've found. So just want to shout out all of them, and I will leave their links down in the description. So thanks for watching and listening. Hope you guys enjoyed this. I'll have more soon, so make sure you're subscribed here, follow along on social media, and follow along the Films at Home podcast for more content like this. Really appreciate you all watching, so have a great rest of your day. Stay safe, stay healthy out there, and I'll talk to you all soon.